She fined me 500 fucking dollars for walking my dog. Didn't bite no one. Didn't piss on her plastic lawn flamingos. Just walked. Next thing I know, she's got her clipboard up my ass and a smile like she just caught bin Laden. That's when I knew I was at war. Let me tell you something, man. I've been shot at in Afghanistan, stitched my own arm shut with fishing line, and pulled a Humvee out of a ravine using duct tape in pure spite. But none of that shit prepared me for the living hell. That is the HOA. Specifically, Karen Delaney, president of the Willow Ridge Homeowners Association. She's not just a woman, bro. She's a 5'4" tyrant in skeechers, armed with a clipboard, a Bluetooth headset, and a superiority complex the size of Texas. So here's the setup I bought this ranch right outside town. 50 acres of peace tree space to let my dog Ranger run, and nobody to bother me except maybe the occasional possum with attitude. Place was not inside any HOA. That was the whole damn point. Week 1, I'm on the porch drinking a Coors Ranger's chewing on a stick bigger than him, and this lady walks up to the fence like she owns oxygen. Blonde bob sunglasses bigger than her personality outfit, tighter than a bar tab after karaoke night. She looks at me like I just pissed in her pool. "Excuse me, sir," she says, all sugary like she's auditioning for the role of evil southern aunt. "I'm Karen Delaney, president of the Willow Ridge HOA. We like to keep this area pleasant and harmonious. Just letting you know, we'll be holding a community check-in next Friday. Mandatory for all homeowners." I take a sip of beer, look around at my land, then back at her. "Ma'am, I don't live in your neighborhood." "Oh, I know," she chirps, "but we still encourage regional participation for unity." "Uh-huh," I say, and toss Ranger another stick. "Also," she adds, "we noticed your dog was off-leash earlier. That's a safety concern, for who I ask." "The squirrels." She didn't laugh, just smiled like she wanted to call ice on me. That's when I knew this chick was going to be a problem. Fast forward 2 weeks. I'm coming back from the hardware store with a load of fence posts, and what do I find taped to my front gate? Bright-ass yellow paper flapping in the wind like it's proud of itself. Violation notice. $750 fine. Thus, unauthorized dog walking on HOA grounds. I'm like, what the actual fuck? I look down at Ranger, my golden retriever. 90 pounds of pure loyalty and bad breath. He's just panting like, "Bro, did I shit on someone's lawn again?" Spoiler alert, we were on my property. I ain't got no HOA. I live outside their stupid little Stepford-ass community. I bought 50 acres apiece with my own cash after doing 2 tours and busting my back for 20 damn years. And now this woman with a Kate Gosselin haircut and a god complex wants to tell me where my dog can walk. She's already back standing on the other side of the fence like she's ready for a presidential debate. I go, "Karen, this is my land. Ranger's been pissing on this dirt since you were still harassing pizza delivery guys about speed limits." She don't even blink. Smiles like she just swallowed a lemon soaked in ego. "We updated the community boundary lines. Your walking path now crosses HOA Conservation Buffer Zone B." Conservation Buffer Zone B? Bitch, please. That's a dirt trail I built with a shovel and 2 cases of Miller Lite. She keeps going. "Dogs must be leashed, transported, or carried through HOA managed grounds. 10 days to pay. $100 added daily if not." I swear to God, I almost threw Ranger over the fence just to technically carry him. Instead, I just nodded, walked back to the house. But inside, oh, I was stewing. Not crying, not begging, planning. See, I didn't survive 2 deployments, a mortgage crisis, and 3 ex-girlfriends just to get punked by a wannabe dictator with printed bylaws. If she wanted to play games, I was going to play harder. And guess what? 3 months later, I owned every damn strip of land around her neighborhood. The trail's mine. The lake she liked to kayak on Sundays mine. The cute little path where the HOA kids walk their overpriced doodles. Yeah, and fenced off and posted private property. Trespassers will eat shit. Karen lost her mind. She marched right back to my gate, fist clenched like she was going to smite me with a Starbucks latte. You can't just cut off the community like this. This is harassment. So I stepped out with a deed in one hand and my phone recording in the other. I said, Karen, sweetheart, I didn't cut off the community. I bought it. Look, I didn't move out here to start a war. I came out to the sticks for one reason: peace. And maybe a place where I could piss off my own damn porch without somebody reporting it to the neighborhood atmosphere committee. After 20 years of sweating in boots and sand, I finally hung up the uniform. Got a decent pension. Grandpa kicked the bucket around the same time and left me a surprise of fat inheritance and a post-it that said, "Don't waste this on women or whiskey. Get some land." So I did. Found this patch of heaven just outside Willow Ridge. 50 acres of prairie trees and silence. Hell, even the air smelled like freedom and old cow shit, but freedom nonetheless. No sirens. No neighbors staring at your hedges. Just me, my dog Ranger, and a busted lawn chair that squeaked like it had PTSD. Week 1 heaven. Sunrise coffee on the porch. Ranger chasing squirrels like it was his full-time job. No emails, no meetings, no one telling me to put on pants. You ever just sit outside and listen to the wind? Shit makes you feel alive. Makes you feel like maybe the world ain't gone completely stupid yet. Then Karen Delaney happened. It was a Thursday, mid-morning. I was out back trying to dig a trench for some drainage shirt off, sweat pouring like a busted faucet, when I hear heels. Heels on gravel. That's never a good sign. I look up and there she is walking toward my fence like she owns GPS rights to the earth. Blonde bob haircut, stiff as drywall, sunglasses so big they could pick up satellite signal, and a red folder clutched tight like it contained the secrets of the fucking universe. "Hi there," she sings, voice sugar sweet, but with the aftertaste of arsenic. I nod, wipe sweat off my brow with the back of my hand. "Help you with something, ma'am?" She stops at the edge of my property line, eyeing me like I'm a roach with tax debt. "I'm Karen Delaney, president of the Willow Ridge Homeowners Association. Just making sure everyone's settling in okay." "Everyone I ask, there's nobody here but me, my dog, and a pack of raccoons that keep flipping my trash." She laughs one of those tight little corporate laughs that says, "I don't find this funny, but I'm pretending to be human." "Yes, well, we try to keep the surrounding areas up to community standards, even properties that aren't technically under HOA jurisdiction." I raise an eyebrow. Even properties that ain't under HOA, she doesn't flinch. "We like to maintain a visual continuity across Willow Ridge and the extended perimeter. You're just close enough that we consider you a representative of the neighborhood." "Close enough," I mutter. "What am I HOA adjacent?" She hands me a trifold pamphlet printed on thick, glossy paper. Front cover says Harmony, Order, and Aesthetic Excellence. A neighbor's guide. I shit you not. Inside, pages of color-coded rules. Lawn lengths, fence heights, acceptable mailbox tones. It even had a diagram about bush symmetry. "We'd appreciate it," Karen says, "if you could align your landscaping with the broader vision of the community. For cohesion." I stare at her. Deadpan. "Lady, I didn't retire from 2 wars just to come home and get judged by shrubbery." She blinks, that fake smile twitching. "Well, enjoy your day, Mr. Jack," I say. "Jack Miller. And the dog's name is Ranger. He bites if you smell like HOA." Her smile stiffens like old gravy. She turned on those heel clickers and strutted off like she just delivered the 10 Commandments. Ranger barked once. I swear he was laughing. That night, I tossed the pamphlet straight into the burn barrel. Cracked open a beer, stared at the sky. That should have been the end of it, right? But you know better, I should have known better. Karen wasn't done. She just licked her finger and turned to the first page in her damn playbook. Yeah, first week after that courtesy visit. Nothing, silence. I thought maybe she'd fucked off and found a new bush to micromanage. But nah, Karen was just warming up. like a python in yoga pants waiting to strike while pretending she's centered. Week 2, I get my first letter. Not a bill, not a package. A goddamn formal complaint in calligraphy. No shit, handwritten blue ink, even had a wax seal like it was from fucking Hogwarts. Dear Mr. Miller, we regret to inform you that your dog's barking has become a nuisance. It echoes across the eastern hedgerow, disrupting the peaceful aura of Willow Ridge. Please address this promptly. Disrupting the peaceful aura. Lady, this ain't a yoga retreat. It's a goddamn working ranch. Ranger barks when something moves. That's his job. Next week, your tree branch extends 3.7 feet into HOA airspace. Kindly trim for alignment. HOA airspace? What the hell is that? What are they flying drones or egos a week after that 4th of July? I lit 3 sparklers and 1 Roman candle, just me and Ranger on the porch, celebrating freedom the old-fashioned way. By morning, I'd been reported to the fire marshal. Reason suspicion of explosive activity near residential zone. Explosive activity my ass. If a Roman candle is a threat, then my farts after chili night are a fucking national emergency. And here's the thing, I still tried to be civil, tried to laugh it off. I dealt with insurgents smarter than this HOA. Thought maybe if I ignored it, it'd go away. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Yeah, then came the camera. Saturday, sunny. Me and Ranger walking the usual trail along the back fence. Ain't nothing fancy, just dirt grass and some wild sage. It loops close to their precious community, but still on my land. Come Monday, another notice. Yellow this time. Stuck to my gate like a curse. $750 fine. Unauthorized canine activity on HOA buffer trail. What the actual, I damn near choked on my coffee. I called the HOA number just to see if it was a prank. Lady answers like she's working the front desk of hell. Sir, our committee reviewed video footage. You were seen stepping into buffer zone alpha. That constitutes a violation. Buffer zone alpha bitch this ain't. Area 51. I asked for the map. She emailed me a new version. Looked like a toddler finger-painted some red lines over Google Earth. Guess what? They'd redrawn the damn boundary. That trail used to be 100% mine. Now suddenly it snakes through protected common ground. So, let me get this straight. They made up a new map, slapped some legal-sounding bullshit on it, and then used that to find me on my own dirt. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about barking, wasn't about tree limbs. This was a setup. Karen wasn't just bored, she was baiting me. And buddy, that lit a fire in me I hadn't felt since the day some punk tried to bribe my squad with camel meat and a prayer rug. I could have gone to court. Could have screamed and fought and flipped the bird on local news, but nah, that's what she wanted. She wanted a show. Instead, I did what Grandpa always said, don't wrestle pigs. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. So I called someone smarter than me with paperwork, Elliot Crane, old buddy from my army days. Went to law school because, quote, it's like war, but with better coffee. He didn't ask many questions. You own that trail used to. You got a survey from 10 years ago. Then we fight with land, not words. Next day, he showed up in a rusted Jeep with 2 things. A county zoning map older than Karen's Botox. A list of every parcel of land the HOA uses but doesn't actually own trails. Picnic areas. The lake. Even the gravel lot they call visitor overflow. All technically owned by private investors development corps that forgot they even. Elliot looked at me calm as, Sunday, you want to hit back? I want to end her entire empire. Then buy her moat. I said, you're insane. He grinned. Nah, you're just broken principle not in cash. And you got Grandpa's inheritance sitting like a loaded gun. So that's what we did. Quiet, surgical, legal, clean. And in 3 months, I didn't just buy back my trail, I bought their goddamn backyard. But that's a story for the next chapter, brother. This one. This one ends with me sitting on the porch, cold beer in hand, looking at that HOA sign across the hill, and thinking y'all wanted a problem. Now you've got a landowner with rage receipts and Ranger, and we don't miss. After that last bullshit fine, I sat on my porch beer in hand hat pulled low, and Ranger curled up like he just ran a marathon made of HOA drama. I was done. Not with the land, not with the peace. I was done playing nice. Karen wanted to play queen cool, but I was about to buy her entire damn kingdom out from under her Skechers. So I called Elliot Crane. Now let me tell you about Elliot. He's the kind of guy who wears a button-up and flip-flops quotes zoning law like scripture, and once got banned from a country club for excessive smirking. We did a tour together back in the day. I built bunkers. He filed field reports. These days, he builds lawsuits with the same precision. I pour concrete, no gaps, no cracks, no mercy. He pulls up to my ranch in a 20-year-old Jeep that looks like it's held together with duct tape and caffeine, pops the trunk, bam out, rolls 3 fucking crates full of maps, deeds, survey scans, and county filings. You said you want to go nuclear, he says, pulling a Sharpie from behind his ear. Here's the first target list. We laid it all out on my kitchen table. And I mean all of it. Turns out Karen's HOA. It was built like a goddamn Jenga tower on a greased floor. Looks solid from the outside, but baby, just poke the right piece and it's going to collapse faster than a drunk uncle at a barbecue. Here's the thing about HOAs a lot of folks don't know. They use land they don't own. See, back when Willow Ridge was developed, the original builder kept legal ownership of a bunch of green zones, walking trails, easements, a decorative lake, even the community rec field where HOA kids play overpriced soccer. Guess what? That builder went belly up in 2009, filed chapter screw you and vanished, and those lots. They've just been sitting there quiet, unclaimed, listed under some busted LLC in Florida that doesn't check their email. Elliot grinned. They've been squatting on borrowed land like a raccoon in a foreclosed RV. So we buy it. We buy all of it. I blinked. I mean, I had some of Grandpa's inheritance left. Was going to use it to build a new barn, maybe a hot tub if I got stupid. But this was different. This wasn't about hot tubs. This was about making Karen feel the same damn helplessness she tried to drown me in. So I cracked a second beer and said, let's burn it all down. Legally. Over the next 6 weeks, Elliot worked like a caffeinated crow, digging through county records, calling land offices, making offers to every forgotten holding company between here and Tampa. I just kept cutting checks and grinning. Ranger, he supervised from the porch, occasionally barking at squirrels or bad karma floating in from the HOA side. By week 4, we'd already snagged the trailhead and the gravel easement beside it. That decorative lake Karen kayaked in like she was training for the goddamn Olympics. A wildlife buffer zone they used for picnics now. It was mine and closed for rewilding. I even bought the goddamn HOA welcome sign. Turns out it sat on unclaimed land. Sign and all mine. I didn't take it down. I just put a little sticker over it that said, now renting 500 HR for HOA events. 10% discount if you apologize first. It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was surgical. And Karen, she didn't see it coming. But that didn't last long. It was a Monday, 7:42 a.m. I was eating eggs reading yesterday's paper when I hear this high-pitched screech like someone had just seen Jesus mowing their lawn in flip-flops. Ranger bolts to the porch. I follow. And there she is. Karen, in full meltdown, standing in front of the trailhead, my trailhead now clutching a Starbucks cup and a printout, like it was the last will and testament of her authority. You can't do this, she shrieks. You can't just buy community property. I walk up real slow, calm as hell. Actually, I didn't. Turns out, it ain't community property. Never was. That land belongs to Willow Ridge. Nah, I say, holding up a deed, it belonged to North Pines Holdings, LLC. But now it belongs to Jack fucking Miller. Her face. It went from I'm in charge to I just shit myself in public in 2.3 seconds. She stomps back toward her HOA kingdom, screaming into her phone. Emergency meeting. Now. Call the board. He's buying the neighborhood, and I just stood there drinking coffee, watching her march away like a mall cop with a busted badge. Did I feel bad? Hell no. Did I feel alive? Like I'd mainlined lightning. You ever see a control freak spiral? I mean, full-on brain meltdown mascara running, mouth foaming spiral? Welcome to the week. Karen Delaney found out her little cardboard kingdom was built on rented sand, and I just bought the beach. First shot she fired. An HOA-wide emergency email titled, Urgent Outside Party Threatens. Community Integrity. Attached a photo of me shirtless drinking a Miller Lite on my porch with the caption, Individual known as Jack Miller has acquired several peripheral parcels and is exhibiting hostile behavior. Hostile behavior, lady. I was holding a beer and scratching my dog's ears, not planning a goddamn coup. Next thing I know, Elliot's phone's blowing up. Karen sends him a cease and desist letter full of legal diarrhea and bold red fonts. Elliot reads it out loud. Deadpan. You are hereby notified that your client's recent land acquisitions represent a threat to aesthetic harmony, safety, and community cohesion. Then he laughs so hard he snorts coffee through his nose. They're accusing you of owning shit legally. So we dialed it up. We didn't just buy dirt. We boxed them in. Literally. Elliot mapped it north side mine, south entrance mine, east trail and overflow lot. Also mine. Western picnic strip with their dumbass community garden. Bought it last Tuesday, and the lake I didn't close it. I just put up a sign, private land, no HOA access. Trespassers will be tickled mercilessly by lawyers. Day after that, Karen tries to hold an HOA board meeting at the picnic lot. They show up folding chairs, clipboards, and a goddamn podium. Guess what? That land's mine now. I roll up in the truck, lean out the window. Hey folks, hate to interrupt, but unless y'all want to pay $1,000 hourly rental, I'm going to have to ask you to scoot. Karen damn near swallowed her teeth. You're harassing a governing body. Nope, I say. I'm a landlord collecting rent. Next day, HOA goes DEFCON 2. Security cameras installed overnight. Karen now wears a headset like she's the host of a corporate TED Talk. Residents start whispering. Board members start bailing. By Friday, I get a letter in my mailbox. Typed, no signature, just says, This used to be a neighborhood. Now it's your playground. Hope you're proud. I read it 3 times, then I looked out over the land, my land, and I'll be honest, I didn't feel proud. I felt pissed. Not at the neighbors, at her, at the whole goddamn system that gave her a clipboard and called it power. This wasn't a game anymore. This was a fucking reckoning. And then came the best part. The board resignation. 2 members of the HOA board, Mark and Shelley, show up at my ranch. Nervous as hell, holding paper plates of banana bread like peace offerings. Jack Mark says we didn't sign up for this kingdom shit. We just wanted speed bumps and dog poop signs. I nod. I didn't sign up for war either. But here we are. They resign. Right there on my porch. I let them because they weren't the enemy. They were just pawns in Karen's HOA Hunger Games. By now, the whole community's talking. Parents pissed their kids can't walk the trails. Old folks grumbling about blocked lake access. Teens spray painting Free Willow Ridge on HOA signs. The neighborhood ain't just annoyed, it's fermentin'. Karen, she ain't taking it well. She files an injunction to force me to sell back the land. Calls it critical infrastructure. Elliot laughs so hard he mails her a coloring book and a copy of Property Law for Dummies. I mail her a bucket of dirt. With a sticky note you wanted ground to stand on. Here you go. Then comes the real kicker. I get a call from Elliot. Hey, remember that last undeveloped lot behind their clubhouse? Yeah, we got it. I blink. Wait, the one with the trail, the fire pit, and the community notice board. He grins through the phone. Yup, it's yours now. I pour myself a bourbon walk outside and stare at Karen's house on the hill. Not saying a word, just watching the empire crack. Next day, Karen calls for an emergency HOA-wide assembly. I show up. Why? Because I fucking can. I park the truck right in front of the HOA clubhouse. Walk in. Dead silence. She's standing there at the front, hair-tight, eyes wild. Mr. Miller is attempting to sabotage the very foundation of our community, she announces. Nah, I say. Just owning the land y'all forgot to pay attention to. I hold up one page. See this county map. Parcel codes, ownership records, all real. I ain't a terrorist, Karen. I'm just your new fucking neighbor. Gasps, a few chuckles, and then silence, that beautiful, painful, HOA-shattering silence. I walk out. No mic drop needed. Back in the truck, Ranger sitting shotgun head out the window, and me, I'm smiling. Not like a villain, like a man who just dug the foundation for something better. My granddad used to say, if they won't hear your words, build something they can't ignore out of concrete and spite. Pretty sure he was talking about a neighbor's busted cow fence, but man, that advice hit different when I was staring at Karen Delaney and her HOA cult of clipboard-toting zealots. After I bought half the goddamn community out from under her nose, Karen went silent for about 2.5 days. Then sirens. Monday morning, a sheriff's cruiser pulls up at the end of my driveway. Out steps this baby-faced deputy named Jenkins, looking like he still had milk on his breath. Mr. Miller, we got a complaint that you're blocking public trail access. Blocking it. Nah, I'm just landscaping it. With boulders. Decorative boulders. Bought 'em at Lowe's. Want the receipt? He looks confused, the kind of confused that says I'm not paid enough for this HOA Civil War bullshit. Behind him, Karen, standing by her SUV, clutching her iPad like it's a Bible and filming like she's making the next episode of Dateline Suburbia. I point to the brand new sign I installed on my property line. Private property trespassers will be photographed mocked and may end up in a country song. Jenkins snorts. Karen screams. That's intimidation. Nah, I say. That's graphic design with personality. He leans in. Look, Jack. Maybe just don't poke the bear. You ever tried reasoning with a paper-pushing control freak? Can't say I have. Exactly. That's why I build walls. So I did. And not your basic white picket fence either. I poured a wall. Concrete. 6 feet tall. Post set every 4 feet. Reinforced like a damn bunker. Every 10 yards, I bolted up a bronze plaque that said, "This wall exists because one of us is exhausting." Hint, it ain't the guy with the concrete. My dog Ranger lounged in the sun watching through a gap in the wall like he was waiting for HOA heads to explode. Next day, some old guy from 2 streets over strolls up while I'm power washing the concrete. Jack, I don't care for that woman either, but doing all this might be overkill. I smiled. I'm building on land I own. She's the one who fined me for leaving a shovel on my porch. He nodded and walked off. Didn't say a word, but he gave the wall one hell of a respectful side-eye. Then came the email. Anonymous. No name. Just this, you might own the dirt, but she owns the people. A neighbor. I laughed so loud I startled Ranger. Well, then I told him, time to liberate the people. The next morning, Elliot showed up with a big-ass envelope and a grin. Inside 6 former resident testimonies. The Patels forced out over a pergola color violation. The Martinezes fined for keeping backyard chickens. Miss Jackson denied a garden because of aesthetic conflict. People are starting to remember, Elliot said. Remember who the real problem is. Karen, she went full nuclear. 3 lawsuits in 48 hours. 1 for emotional damages. 1 demanding my wall be dismantled immediately. And 1 against Elliot for inciting community unrest. Elliot didn't blink. She's throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks. Thing is, I built the wall, and it's non-stick. People in the neighborhood were buzzing now. HOA's Facebook group started leaking screenshots. I used to think he was just a jerk, but now he's the only one actually protecting this place. Saturday night, I grabbed a spray can and walked out to the wall. Ranger padded along behind me. I found a blank patch of concrete and painted a single line big and bold. This wall is temporary. Tyranny isn't. Pick a side. JM. Karen Delaney doesn't lose. Not in Monopoly, not in yoga class, and definitely not when it comes to her little HOA empire of lawn rule fascism and fear. So when she realized she couldn't tear down my wall or sue me into submission, she called the local goddamn news. Monday morning, Channel 12 rolls up. Beat-up fan local reporter named Wendy and a camera guy who looked hungover enough to still be drunk. "Are you Jack Miller?" she asked, stepping out like she was about to uncover a meth lab. "Unless I died in my sleep and someone else is drinking this coffee, yeah." She gave me the smile. The tight, polished, you're on TV smile. "We'd like to ask you a few questions about the situation here in Willow Ridge." "Sure," I said, but I'm answering with a beer in one hand and a biscuit in the other. Non-negotiable. 10 minutes later, we're filming. They pan across the wall the sarcastic bronze plaques my dog Ranger sleeping next to a sign that reads, "Brooks Wall, built with love. Rebar and spite, SD." Last Tuesday, Wendy turns to me, mic in hand. "Some residents say you're dividing the community." "Lady, the community was already split. I just put concrete in the crack." Karen Delaney says you've created an unsafe environment. Unsafe, I paved a trail. I planted ginkgo trees. Her HOA's the only thing here that smells like rot. Cut to Karen's interview. She's standing in front of the HOA clubhouse like she's campaigning for mayor of Pettyville. We are being harassed. Targeted. This individual has weaponized land ownership. Weaponized land ownership. Jesus, they played it on the 6 o'clock news. Me looking like a chilled-out ex-Marine with a grill and a dream. Karen sweating bullets in 4K. The comment section online, brutal. Next morning, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. Memes of Karen shouting with HOA hell in red Comic Sans. A gif of my dog peeing on the HOA welcome sign. Someone photoshopped me onto a dollar bill that said, "In Jack we trust." But then came the real boom, the whistleblower drop. Wednesday night, Elliot calls me. "Dude, you better be sitting down." He sends me a zip file. Inside HOA internal records, receipts, emails, bank statements, and, buddy, they were juicy. HOA fees used for Karen's personal Amazon orders. HOA funds paying for her niece's private cheerleading camp. A retaining wall project that got $14,000 in funding never existed. Karen's signature on every single check. We didn't leak it right away. We printed it, bound it, label on the front. HOA Transparency Report brought to you by Jack Concrete. Doesn't lie, Miller. Thursday morning, I delivered one to every porch in Willow Ridge. No speech, no drama, no door knocking. Just a man with a cart full of truth and a stapler. By Friday, the neighborhood turned into a courtroom. Residents demanding open financials. HOA board members ducking calls. Karen holding emergency meetings in her garage. Someone spray-painted "Where's the wall money, Karen" on the trail sign. I didn't do it, but damn if I didn't laugh. Saturday, 3 board members resigned. One left a note on the HOA bulletin board I joined to keep the dog poop off the sidewalks. Not to cover fraud. I'm out. Karen. She wasn't done. She filed for something called Emergency HOA Powers Expansion. Basically a last-ditch grab for control. If passed, it would let her. Ban non-members from walking on shared spaces. Fine for inflammatory signage. Temporarily block access to certain properties for community safety translation. She wanted legal permission to shut me down. But for that, she needed a full resident vote. And that vote was scheduled for next Friday night. 1 week, 1 shot, for Karen to take back the neighborhood, or lose it all. That night, I sat on my porch, beer and hand ranger snoring by my feet. Looked out at the wall, looked up at the stars, and I said out loud, 7 days, Karen. Better make 'em count. I've seen a lot of stupid in my life. Guy once tried to sue me because his kid tripped on my rebar while trespassing. Another neighbor once blamed my concrete mixer for killing her cat. For the record, it was the highway. Not my fault your cat was suicidal, Brenda. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the sheer Olympic-level stupidity of Karen Delaney thinking she could pull off a power grab in front of a neighborhood that just found out she'd been skimming HOA funds to buy AirPods and scented candles. Here's what she did. She scheduled an emergency community referendum, printed flyers, mailed them, posted them on every tree lamppost and mailbox in Willow Ridge. And the headline, "Vote Yes to Restore Peace and Order to Our Community." Subtext: give me total control or I'll throw another tantrum. I read it while sipping whiskey in my lawn chair. Ranger farted. Felt symbolic. Elliot came by that night flipping through the flyer with a grin. She's going full Caesar. This is her crossing the Rubicon. Nah, I said. This is her stepping on a rake. We had 6 days to prepare, and let me tell you, we didn't waste a second. Step 1. Get the numbers. Elliot pulled up the HOA charter. Turns out Karen couldn't just declare power like she was HOA Napoleon. She needed a 75% resident vote in favor, in person, on paper, verified by a third-party witness. Thing is, Karen only had about 15 true loyalists left, the rest fed up, worn out, or quietly cheering me on while pretending they just want everyone to get along. We didn't need to win with a landslide. We just needed to block her from reaching 75%. And we had ammo. Step 2. Talk to the people. We split up the neighborhood. I took the East Side older folks long-timers, the ones who still remembered when the HOA was just a handful of retirees handing out Halloween flyers and checking mailbox paint. Elliot took the new builds. Young families, remote workers, the ones who didn't know. They were signing up for suburban tyranny until Karen started measuring their grass with a ruler. You know what we heard? Wait, we pay her. She bought a jacuzzi with our fees. She made me move my trampoline because it clashed with her Zen aesthetic. By Wednesday, over half the block had promised to vote no. Some even offered to help us get others on board. Tom brought donuts and started knocking doors himself. We were turning the tide. But Karen, she wasn't sitting still. Thursday morning, I found a letter duct taped to my gate. Typed, anonymous, no return address. They're watching you. Cameras. At least 3 on your side of the wall. HOA funded. Karen's not done. She's just getting mean. At first I laughed. Then I checked the tree line behind my property. Saw the glint, a lens. Tiny. Hidden in a fake birdhouse. That bitch. I called Elliot. Told him to bring his drone. We scanned the whole property. Found 2 more. All infrared. All aimed straight at my porch and driveway. She's building a case, Elliot said. Trying to catch you slipping, even the smallest violation. She's going for entrapment. I laughed. Good. Let her watch. I went out to the porch, sat down, looked directly at the hidden camera, then flipped it off with both hands and cracked a beer. Smile wide, shirt off, American flag in the background. Karen wanted surveillance. She was going to get a damn show. That night, Karen hosted a pre-vote open house at the HOA building. Elliot and I showed up in flannel and boots looking like we just finished burying a body. Inside it smelled like lavender air freshener and control issues. Karen stood at the front of the room in a beige pantsuit that screamed, "Please take me seriously." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she said into a mic that squealed on cue. I know it's been a challenging few weeks. Emotions are high. But we must return to order, to structure, to values. I leaned over to Elliot. She's campaigning like she's running for HOA president of North Korea. He whispered back, "Wait till she brings up the power expansion." And she did. 10 minutes of bullshit justification. We need emergency authority to protect our homes from malicious actors. She looked straight at me when she said it. I waved. She flinched. Then came Q&A. I raised my hand. She hesitated. Called on me. "Hi, Karen," I said, cheerful as hell. "Quick question. How much of the HOA budget went toward your niece's out-of-state cheerleading camp again? Was it 5 grand or 6 dead silence? A woman in the back choked on her drink. Karen's eye twitched. That is not relevant? Sure it is, I cut in. You want power? We want answers. Seems fair. She tried to pivot. Didn't work. A dozen hands shot up. And just like that, the room turned. It wasn't just my war anymore, it was everyone's. After the meeting, I walked outside to a crowd of neighbors, people I barely knew. One of them clapped me on the back. You're a pain in the ass, Miller, but you're our pain in the ass. I nodded. I'll take it. Back at the cabin, I cracked open a cold one, pulled out the HOA charter, and started highlighting every clause we could use against her. Because Friday was coming fast, and Karen's little fake kingdom was 1 vote away from crumbling. Friday night, Judgment Day. The emergency community referendum was set to start at 6 p.m. sharp at the HOA clubhouse. Voting required in-person ballots only. No proxies, no email, no Zoom. Karen wanted control so bad she tightened the rules hoping to strangle the resistance. Thing is, she forgot who she was messing with. By 5:15, I was already parked across the street. Fold-out chair, thermos full of bourbon-spiked sweet tea. Ranger next to me wearing a vest that said security. Elliot rolled up with a clipboard, 20 pages of backup, and that look he gets when someone's about to lose a legal war and doesn't even know it yet. You ready? He asked. I nodded. I was born for this. Inside, Karen had set the scene like it was a wedding reception. Tablecloths, ballot boxes with gold trim, a slideshow playing softly on a projector that read, Rebuilding Our Community Together. Translation, Let me rule you in peace. Board members stood by nervously handing out pens. Karen hovered like a vulture in stilettos. At exactly 6:00, she cleared her throat and tapped the mic. Tonight, we vote not just on policy, but on the future of Willow Ridge. Some people clapped. Most didn't. I leaned over to Elliot. Let's spring the trap. See, while Karen was printing flyers and counting imaginary allies, we'd been running the numbers. Door by door. One question. Are you voting yes to give Karen emergency power? Or are you done with the bullshit? And tonight we brought receipts, literally. As ballots were being filled out, Elliot stood up. Requested time on the mic. Karen tried to object. The crowd overruled her. Elliot cleared his throat and held up a sealed manila envelope. My name's Elliot Grant. I'm a licensed mediator and property law consultant. And before this vote is finalized, I think the residents of Willow Ridge deserve full transparency. He handed the envelope to the volunteer notary sitting at the front table. This, he said, is a signed affidavit from 2 former HOA board members, under oath, detailing misuse of HOA funds, falsified maintenance logs, and violations of your own community bylaws. Gasps, murmurs, someone whispered, "Oh, hell no." Karen turned red, then pale, then red again. This is a smear campaign, she hissed. He's trying to sabotage the democratic process. Elliot raised an eyebrow. Karen, do you really want me to read the part about the ghost invoice for community morale consultants that went to your husband's shell company? She went quiet. Then I stood. No mic. Just my voice. Folks, I know I've been loud, petty, maybe even a pain in the ass, a few chuckles. But I didn't come here to destroy anything. I came here to build, to reclaim what this place used to be. Before we started measuring mailbox colors and fining people for having wind chimes, a few heads nodded. I'm not asking you to trust me. Hell, I wouldn't. I'm asking you to look around. Are we better off now than we were a year ago? No one spoke, and that silence, that was the sound of truth landing. Voting resumed. Ballots dropped into the box one by one. Karen stood stiff, hands clenched, like a Vegas gambler watching the dealer count down a bad hand. And when it was done, the notary stood, cleared her throat, held up the results. To pass the resolution, a minimum of 75% of participating households must vote yes. Pause. The final tally is 41% yes. 59% no. Boom. Karen didn't move. Someone clapped, then another. Then the whole goddamn room erupted. She didn't even speak. She just turned heels, clicking face blank, and walked out the side door like she still had somewhere to be. Like maybe if she moved fast enough, the truth wouldn't catch her. Spoiler, it already had. Outside, the air was cool. Clean. For the first time in months, the clubhouse didn't feel like a courtroom. It felt like a neighborhood. Tom appeared beside me holding 2 beers. "To the vote," he said. "To the wall," I replied. We clinked. Later that night, I got a message from the notary. A scanned copy of Karen's emergency powers proposal, with a sticky note attached from one of the board members who flipped sides. "You were right, Jack. HOA doesn't mean Homeowner Oppression Authority. Not anymore." And that was that. No more fake rules. No more threats taped to my gate. Just me, my wall, my dog, and a community that finally remembered what the hell it means to be neighbors. But don't get too comfortable, because what happened next made the HOA drama look like preschool, and her name was Mallory. Victory's a funny thing. For a few days after the vote, life in Willow Ridge actually felt quiet. Like maybe all the noise, the lawsuits, the property line drama, maybe it really was over. No more Karen, no more threat letters. No more HOA bullshit parked at the end of my driveway like a rotting cop car of red tape and pretentious lawn inspections. The wall stood proud. The neighbors stopped flinching. Kids were riding their bikes again. Even Ranger seemed less pissed at squirrels, but peace never lasts out here. And it didn't start with another HOA memo. It started with her. She showed up the following Monday. Mallory Crane, new resident. Moved into one of the foreclosed homes after the whole HOA meltdown. Slim, late 30s, maybe red hair, tied back in a no-bullshit bun, drove a black Bronco with Colorado plates and an engine that growled like it had stories. I met her while restaining the wall. She walked up, leaned on the fence, and said, "So, you're the infamous wall guy." I grinned. "Depends who's asking." She smirked. Someone who appreciates a man who solves conflict with concrete and sarcasm. I liked her instantly, which meant I didn't trust her. We talked for a bit. She said she used to work in environmental law. Said she moved here to disappear for a while. I offered her a beer. She took it without blinking. Drank half, looked around, then said, "You know, there's something buried out here, right?" I raised an eyebrow. "What, like treasure?" She shrugged. "Depends on your definition." Then she walked off like that was a normal-ass thing to say on a Monday. That night, I dug through my granddad's old survey maps again. Every time this place goes quiet, I find myself crawling back to those old papers like they're gospel. Hand-drawn borders. Notes in red ink. Little X marks where he'd written stuff like drainage weird here, or fence dispute 1993, or my personal favorite, don't trust anyone named Doug. But one mark caught my eye. A circle. Way out past the trail. Behind what used to be HOA land, labeled Mallory Well, capped 1987, ask Harold Mallory. Well, I didn't know any Harold, but I sure as hell knew something wasn't adding up. Next day, I ran into Tom while restocking beer. I asked him casual like, "You ever hear of a Mallory?" Well, he froze. Just for a second. But enough. Then said real careful, "Where'd you hear that?" I shrugged. Old map. And a new neighbor. He shook his head slowly. "That well's bad news, Jack. Old property dispute, groundwater contamination. Maybe worse. Worse folks say someone died out there." I paused. Like, fell in. "No," he said. Like, covered up. Then he paid for his chewing tobacco and left without another word. Now, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't believe in Bigfoot chemtrails or honest plumbers. But when the man who helped you take down an HOA refuses to finish a sentence, you dig, literally. I waited till dusk, grabbed a flashlight, a crowbar, and a six-pack. Ranger followed tail stiff. He knew something was off, too. We crossed the edge of my land past the old fence line that used to mark the HOA boundary. Thick brush, damp dirt. Air smelled like mildew and secrets. Then I found it. Concrete slab, half sunk, overgrown with moss. Faint letters etched along the edge. MC'd out in 1987, do not disturb. I cracked a beer and then I started digging. Digging through concrete is a bitch. Even when it's cracked and weathered and half sunk in 30 years of pine needles, it still fights you. Like it knows it's covering something, it ain't ready to give up. I chipped at the slab for hours, sweat pouring back, screaming beer gone warm. Ranger just sat nearby, ears perked, tail low, like he was waiting for something to come out, not go in. Then around midnight, I hit it. A hollow thunk, not metal, not dirt, something else. I dropped to my knees, cleared the debris, and found it. Wood. Old, rotted. Nailed shut with rusted square heads like it came out of some pioneer horror flick. I pried it open, and I swear to God the second I lifted that lid, the air changed. Heavy. Sour. Like mold and diesel and something dead. Inside, 3 things. A rusted-out thermos, a leather-bound folder, and a Polaroid. I pulled the photo first. It was grainy, warped from moisture, but clear enough to see what mattered. A teenage girl. Pale. Curly hair. Smiling on a dock. The name Emily scribbled in faded ink. The same name from Grandpa's notes. The same name Karen never wanted anyone to say. But this wasn't that Emily. This one, she was younger. Earlier, this wasn't about Karen. This went deeper. I took the folder back to the cabin, poured whiskey, sat down with my boots off and my mind spinning like a busted table saw. Inside the folder were hand-drawn maps, county water reports, property surveys from the late 70s, all with one thing circled in red, the crane line. And then I saw it. A deed. 1979. Ownership of the eastern plot, the land that bordered mine and wrapped around the capped well, transferred from Harold Crane to Henry Brooks, my grandfather. But the signature faked. And badly. Like someone tried to copy it from a check and forgot how the letter H worked. Next to it, a sticky note. In Grandpa's handwriting, he never sold it. Someone forged it. Mallory's family got robbed. I didn't know. Not until after he disappeared. Disappeared, I stared at the name again. Harold Crane. Mallory Crane? Oh, shit. I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, because I was pissed. Grandpa built his whole life on concrete honesty and hard labor. He poured foundations like they were gospel, and someone somewhere tried to bury a fraud under his name. I had questions, and I knew exactly who to ask. I found Mallory the next morning on her porch, sipping black coffee and watching the fog burn off the trees like a scene from a true crime show. I didn't sugarcoat it. I found the well, found the box, found the name. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just took a slow sip and said, "So now you know." I leaned on the railing. That your family got scammed? That someone forged a land sale and dumped the evidence in a coffin-sized box under 30 years of HOA bullshit? She nodded. That's the nice version. I waited, and then she told me. Back in the 80s, her dad, Harold Crane, owned the last plot the HOA didn't control. He refused to sell. Said he didn't believe in forced communities, fake neighborliness, or rules written by bored white women with clipboards. Sounded like my kind of guy. They offered him buyouts, threats, lawsuits. Then one night in '87, he vanished. Cops said maybe he skipped town. Left a note no one could find. No foul play, no case. But Mallory. She never believed it. And when she came back to town as an adult, she started digging. Quietly, until she hit the same well I just cracked open. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I asked. She looked me dead in the eyes. Because I needed to know if you were one of them, or one of us. Us, the people who don't bend. The ones they try to scare off. She finished her coffee, set the mug down. I think whoever forged that deed still lives here. I think someone on the old HOA board was in on it, and I think your grandfather knew but couldn't prove it. That folder in my hands, it wasn't a mystery, it was a damn handoff. We agreed on one thing: we weren't done. Not even close. The wall was just the beginning. This, this was the foundation for something bigger. We were going to find out who killed Harold Crane. We were going to expose every dirty signature, every fake transfer, every forced eviction under Karen's old regime. And when we were done, we weren't just taking back land, we were tearing down everything built on the lie. Brick by crooked brick. Victory's a funny thing. For a few days after the vote, life in Willow Ridge actually felt quiet. Like maybe all the noise, the lawsuits, the property line drama, maybe it really was over. No more Karen, no more threat letters, no more HOA bullshit parked at the end of my driveway like a rotting cop car of red tape and pretentious lawn inspections. The wall stood proud. The neighbors stopped flinching. Kids were riding their bikes again. Even rangers seemed less pissed at squirrels, but peace never lasts out here. And it didn't start with another HOA memo. It started with her. She showed up the following Monday. Mallory Crane, new resident. Moved into one of the foreclosed homes after the whole HOA meltdown. Slim, late 30s, maybe red hair tied back in a no-bullshit bun, drove a black Bronco with Colorado plates and an engine that growled like it had stories. I met her while restaining the wall. She walked up, leaned on the fence, and said, "So, you're the infamous wall guy." I grinned. "Depends who's asking," she smirked. Someone who appreciates a man who solves conflict with concrete and sarcasm. I liked her instantly, which meant I didn't trust her. We talked for a bit. She said she used to work in environmental law. Said she moved here to disappear for a while. I offered her a beer. She took it without blinking. Drank half, looked around, then said, "You know there's something buried out here, right?" I raised an eyebrow. "What like treasure?" She shrugged. "Depends on your definition." Then she walked off like that was a normal-ass thing to say on a Monday. That night, I dug through my granddad's old survey maps again. Every time this place goes quiet, I find myself crawling back to those old papers like they're gospel. Hand-drawn borders, notes in red ink, little X marks where he'd written stuff like drainage weird here or fence dispute 1993 or my personal favorite, don't trust anyone named Doug. But one mark caught my eye. A circle way out past the trail, behind what used to be HOA land, labeled Mallory Well, capped 1987. Ask Harold Mallory. Well, I didn't know any Harold, but I sure as hell knew something wasn't adding up. Next day, I ran into Tom while restocking beer. I asked him casual like, "You ever hear of a Mallory?" Well, he froze. Just for a second, but enough. Then said, real careful, "Where'd you hear that?" I shrugged. Old map. And a new neighbor. He shook his head slowly. "That well's bad news, Jack. Old property dispute. Groundwater contamination. Maybe worse. Worse folks say someone died out there." I paused. Like, fell in. "No," he said. Like, covered up. Then he paid for his chewing tobacco and left without another word. Now, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't believe in Bigfoot chemtrails or honest plumbers. But when the man who helped you take down an HOA refuses to finish a sentence, you dig, literally. I waited till dusk. Grabbed a flashlight, a crowbar, and a six-pack. Ranger followed tailstiff. He knew something was off too. We crossed the edge of my land past the old fence line that used to mark the HOA boundary. Thick brush, damp dirt. Air smelled like mildew and secrets. Then I found it. Concrete slab. Half sunk, overgrown with moss. Faint letters etched along the edge. Thiamonabonamon, 1987, do not disturb. I cracked a beer, and then I started digging. Digging through concrete is a bitch. Even when it's cracked and weathered and half sunk in 30 years of pine needles, it still fights you. Like it knows it's covering something it ain't ready to give up. I chipped at the slab for hours. Sweat pouring back, screaming beer gone warm. Ranger just sat nearby, ears perked, tail low, like he was waiting for something to come out, not go in. Then, around midnight, I hit it. A hollow thunk. Not metal, not dirt, something else. I dropped to my knees, cleared the debris, and found it. Wood. Old, rotted, nailed shut with rusted square heads like it came out of some pioneer horror flick. I pried it open, and I swear to God the second I lifted that lid, the air changed. Heavy, sour like mold and diesel in something dead. Inside three things: a rusted-out thermos, a leather-bound folder, and a Polaroid. I pulled the photo first. It was grainy, warped from moisture, but clear enough to see what mattered. A teenage girl, pale, curly hair, smiling on a dock. The name Emily scribbled in faded ink. The same name from Grandpa's notes. The same name Karen never wanted anyone to say. But this wasn't that Emily. This one, she was younger. Earlier. This wasn't about Karen. This went deeper. I took the folder back to the cabin, poured whiskey, sat down with my boots off and my mind spinning like a busted table saw. Inside the folder were hand-drawn maps, county water reports, property surveys from the late 70s, all with one thing circled in red: the Crane line. And then I saw it. A deed. 1979. Ownership of the eastern plot, the land that bordered mine and wrapped around the capped well, transferred from Harold Crane to Henry Brooks, my grandfather. But the signature faked. And badly. Like someone tried to copy it from a check and forgot how the letter H worked. Next to it, a sticky note. In Grandpa's handwriting, he never sold it. Someone forged it. Mallory's family got robbed. I didn't know. Not until after he disappeared. Disappeared, I stared at the name again. Harold Crane. Mallory Crane. Oh shit. I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, because I was pissed. Grandpa built his whole life on concrete honesty and hard labor. He poured foundations like they were gospel, and someone somewhere tried to bury a fraud under his name. I had questions, and I knew exactly who to ask. I found Mallory the next morning on her porch, sipping black coffee and watching the fog burn off the trees like a scene from a true crime show. I didn't sugarcoat it. I found the well, found the box, found the name. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just took a slow sip and said, "So now you know." I leaned on the railing. That your family got scammed? That someone forged a land sale and dumped the evidence in a coffin-sized box under 30 years of HOA bullshit? She nodded. That's the nice version. I waited, and then she told me. And then, back in the 80s, her dad, Harold Crane, owned the last plot the HOA didn't control. He refused to sell. Said he didn't believe in forced communities, fake neighborliness, or rules written by bored white women with clipboards. Sounded like my kind of guy. They offered him buyouts, threats, lawsuits. Then one night in '87, he vanished. Cops said maybe he skipped town. Left a note no one could find. No foul play, no case. But Mallory, she never believed it. And when she came back to town as an adult, she started digging. Quietly. Until she hit the same well I just cracked open. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I asked. She looked me dead in the eyes. Because I needed to know if you were one of them, or one of us. Us, the people who don't bend. The ones they try to scare off. She finished her coffee. Set the mug down. I think whoever forged that deed still lives here. I think someone on the old HOA board was in on it. And I think your grandfather knew but couldn't prove it. That folder in my hands? It wasn't a mystery, it was a damn handoff. We agreed on one thing: we weren't done. Not even close. The wall was just the beginning. This was the foundation for something bigger. We were going to find out who killed Harold Crane. We were going to expose every dirty signature, every fake transfer, every forced eviction under Karen's old regime. And when we were done, we weren't just taking back land. We were tearing down everything built on the lie. Brick by crooked brick. I used to think walls were built to keep things out. Now I know better. Sometimes a wall's the only thing holding you together. It's been 3 months since the Crane tape went viral. Since Mallory reclaimed her land. Since Karen's dynasty of HOA terror got dismantled like a wet IKEA cabinet. Since I stood in front of a courthouse watching a woman get justice for a man, buried by signatures and silence. But victory ain't peace. And I wasn't done building. The cabin's different now. Not just the wall, though that sucker still stands tall and thick, reinforced with enough steel and spite to stop a tank. The yard's cleaner. The porch is rebuilt. Hell, there's even a new mailbox, standard black. No HOA sticker required, but it's the inside that really changed. Where Grandpa's tools used to hang, there's now a framed map. Original property lines heralds land marked bold in red. Right next to it, a blown-up still from the tape. Harold mid-sentence eyes burning. Underneath it carved into wood. You can bury the man, but not the truth. That's not a quote. That's a fucking mission. Mallory stops by most mornings. She's cleared half the old trail, opened up the crane land for wildlife rehab and community gardens. She even hired a couple local teens to help. One of them's a punk kid named Felix, who tried to egg my wall once. Now he runs mulch deliveries. I told him, you throw anything at my wall again, I'm pouring concrete in your shoes. He laughed. I didn't. Tom got elected to the new HOA board. Well, not really an HOA anymore. They voted to rename it the Neighborhood Commons Council, and the first motion they passed burned the old bylaws. Literally. They threw a bonfire. People brought lawn chairs, hot dogs, folding tables. I brought a bottle of Grandpa's bootleg whiskey and a stack of violation notices I'd saved just for the occasion. One by one, we fed the fire. Driveway too long, burn. Unauthorized holiday lights, burn. Visual disharmony, burn that bitch twice. The last one I threw in said Jack Miller. Final warning, goddamn right it was. But peace is a slippery son of a bitch. You don't keep it by sitting still, you build it. And building means picking up a hammer even when your hands still shake from the last war. So that's what I did. I turned the far end of the property into a workshop. Concrete, wood, power tools, welding rig. Called it Brooks and Crane Restoration. No website, no business cards. Just word of mouth and the smell of sawdust. And people came. Folks tired of paying $2,000 to fix a fence. Young bucks who wanted to learn something that didn't require Wi-Fi. Old-timers who missed the sound of a circular saw. We didn't just build benches and patios. We built pride. And pride don't need a permit. One Saturday, Mallory handed me a letter. No envelope. Just folded paper and a small brass key. I opened it. Recognized the handwriting instantly. Grandpa. Jack, if you're reading this, it means you did it. You found the well. You found the truth. I'm proud of you even if I can't say it out loud. Never was good at that. But there's one more thing. Under the note was a property receipt. A tiny lot downtown, zoned commercial, dirt cheap. I stared at it. What the hell is this? Mallory smiled. Check the back. I flipped it. More handwriting. This is where the old community hall used to be. Before the HOA bulldozed it for modernization. I bought the land before I died. Figured someday someone would want to put something better there. He was right. A month later, construction started. Locals showed up with tools. A biker gang brought scaffolding. One of the Patel boys drove up with a truck full of recycled lumber and a radio blasting Bruce Springsteen. We didn't have plans, or permits, or even a name. But we had purpose, and purpose builds faster than blueprints. We finished it in 8 weeks. Wide porch, open beams, indoor workshop, outdoor pit grill, chalkboard wall that said, "This is what community looks like." The night we opened, the entire goddamn neighborhood showed up. Even the Jacksons, the first family Karen ever drove out, came back for the night. Kids ran barefoot through gravel. Grown men cried and blamed it on the smoke. Felix gave a speech and called me the concrete bastard who taught me how to work. Tom called me a legend with a circular saw and unresolved trauma. Mallory just raised her glass. To Jack, she said, "The man who built the wall that tore the old world down." I didn't speak. Didn't need to. Later that night, I stood by the fence, beer in hand, looking out over everything we'd built. The wall, the hall, the future. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was guarding something. I felt like I was part of something. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just 5 words you helped take down Willow Ridge. Can you help us next? I stared at it, then smiled, cracked another beer, and whispered to the trees. Looks like we're gonna need more concrete. So yeah, all that over a goddamn dog walk. That's how it starts. One bullshit fine, one smug smile, one clipboard too many. And before you know it, you're knee-deep in red tape and HOA fuckery wondering when the hell your neighborhood turned into North Korea with picket fences. But here's the thing, they only win if you stay quiet. They count on that. You raise your voice, dig up the truth, swing a little concrete justice. Suddenly their kingdom starts cracking. And if your HOA's got a Karen in charge, you better document everything, because one day you'll need to fight fire with footage. This is Jack, and this story, just one file in a long nasty drawer we call the HOA Karen Files. Like, subscribe, or don't. But if your HOA ever drops a fine on you for having a fucking garden gnome, you'll wish you had us in your corner.